All right, guys, we're back, and today we get to talk about one of just an absolutely huge topic, and it's a really fun one. It's the Eisenhower Interstate Highway Act. This is the thing that is so fun to study, so fun to learn about, because we see the effects of it in our everyday life. We can see it all around us, and so it's something we can really connect to. But I think it's important that we understand how it came about and why it's so important. So what we're going to look at here is that in the 40s and the early 50s, the infrastructure of the country was really in desperate need of an upgrade. The highway system at the time was really disjointed. People weren't sure, states weren't sure who was responsible. Is it the counties? Is it the states? The local communities? And so some of the roads would be well taken care of and well managed. Others would be full of potholes and in desperate need of repair. And in some places, driving from city to city on the highways, it would almost even end in kind of unpaved roads before it picked back up again near a city. And so this is not a very efficient way of moving people and goods and resources around. And so it really was time for something that was more unified in its management and much more efficient. And that's where this guy is going to come in. Dwight D. Eisenhower is the man. He's the president at the time. But he was also, prior to that, the commander of the forces, the Allied forces in World War II. When he was in Europe and they pushed into Germany, he discovered the Autobahn. And he recognized the German efficiency in creating this, that it was exactly what we needed. So when he comes back home and the war is over and he becomes president, he's going to push for an Autobahn-like interstate system, something that connects all of our major cities, all of our major ports. It's going to make it much quicker and more efficient to move people, resources, raw materials, and finished products around the country. And that's really how we get our goods today. Most of what we get is brought to us on the back of a semi-truck. And if we have a connected interstate system, they're going to save money on gas. They're going to save money because it's going to be faster and less time. And all of that equates into lower prices in our stores. So he makes that pitch. He makes that sell to the country. The business community, the industrial community, and manufacturers, they're all on board. They recognize the value of efficiency. The American public is maybe a little bit slower to take it up, and so he's already sold it to the business community, but he wants wider buy-in. So to the American public, he talks about the need for national defense. When it comes to national defense, at that time, we are in the midst of a Cold War crisis. America is living under the constant fear and paranoia of a nuclear attack. The USSR has developed just a few years ago its own nuclear weapon, and we now live with this panic that at any moment our cities could be attacked and see nuclear explosions. His argument is that he doesn't think that will happen. He hopes it never happens, but if it does, if we are under attack, if we're invaded, if there's a bomb that's dropped, or a natural disaster, we need a way to quickly and efficiently evacuate those cities so people can get to safety. That can't be done on a normal state highway system. They're typically two-lane roads and get very congested. There's stop signs, there's stoplights, there's railroads that go across it. There's any number of different problems that could occur, and they're just not fast enough. So this idea of the interstate has high-speed on and off ramps, multiple lanes going in the same direction. It could be used very easily, very quickly, very efficiently to get people out of the cities. So that's something that the American people really like to hear. They like that, and they trust Eisenhower. They remember what he did in helping to win World War II, and so they trust him. When he talks about defense, you have to listen. So that's how he sells it to the American people. It's the efficiency that gets the business community on board. And he is a general, so he does like the idea that if we were attacked, we could quickly move military assets to different ports and make a better defense. So there is an element of defense to this. Now, the interstates, along with the proliferation of cars, car culture is huge. This is a big country, and we're much more spread out than most places in Europe and whatnot. So while at one time a car was a luxury, now it has really become a necessity. For most American families, they really need an automobile, and it's quickly becoming something that they need multiple automobiles. They need one for dad to go into work every day in the city. They need one for mom who is going to drive around the suburbs and pick up the dry cleaning and drop the kids off at school and do the grocery shop and all those kind of errands that need to be run. So We see everything in the 1950s really kind of dovetails very nicely. The GI Bill allows people to buy homes. People buy homes and the suburbs are born, and they need a quick way to get in and out of the city. So the interstates are created. Everything kind of ties in very, very nicely here. Now, this is a really good thing. It's a phenomenal thing for the construction industry because cities all over the country are going to break ground simultaneously to build and connect these interstate systems. The federal government, by the way, paid for 90%. Local states were supposed to pay 10%. The federal government paid 90%. That's something the states could all get behind. So when they build this thing, it becomes the single largest public works project in all of American history. That's saying something. That's a pretty big deal. And so when it's done, it's a good thing. It stimulates construction. It stimulates suburban home growth and shopping centers, and you have to build bridges. I mean, there's just all sorts of different jobs that are being created by this. Prices are being kept low. We love the interstate system. It's how our goods get to us. The vast majority of what you buy in the stores every day comes to you on the back of a semi-truck, and the prices that you pay are lower than they would be if they got here any other way or in a slower fashion. There is always a dark side, though. With everything that is good and stimulates growth, there's usually a little bit of an underbelly, something that doesn't get realized. And I want you to think back to the movie Cars. If you grew up watching Cars, then you know poor little Radiator Springs is really in trouble. They had been a thriving community when the highway system was there because people would come and stop and get gas. They'd eat at the diner. They'd stay at that little Cozy Cone motel. But now that the interstate has come through and it bypassed that town, it went further north of Radiator Springs, the town is in decline. It's really dying and suffering. And we see that happen all over the country. Towns and businesses that are not connected to the interstate system are really going to, that depended upon a steady flow of traffic for customers and consumers, are really going to suffer. If your town is connected to the interstate system, then your population has probably remained fairly steady or maybe even increased. Whereas if you are even a few miles off of the interstate, you've probably seen a decline. It doesn't take much distance but before that exit to your town that you have to then drive miles away becomes much less appealing. And so certain things we see all over the country are truck stops and gas stations and diners that suffer serious, serious decline. All over the place. Now, the other thing is that there's going to be an environmental impact and whatnot with more cars and more driving, but that wasn't something that was really on the radar of people at that time. Let me see here. Again, it becomes the largest public works. We see here pictured a more modern interstate, but it's born in the 1950s, and this plays a huge part in both stimulating the economy back in the 50s and the 60s when it's being constructed, and it still plays a massive part today. Guys, I appreciate you watching. I hope that you learned something. I hope that you can see the connections to history that we experience today. And go ahead and like the video. Please subscribe. Love to be able to push more content to you, and leave me any comments. If there's anything that I missed or if you analyze it in a different way, feel free to share that with me. I love to see those comments. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll catch you next time.